Bill Weld, the 2016 Libertarian Party candidate for vice president, also the former Republican governor of Massachusetts. Governor, last segment, you maybe a Freudian slip. You referred to yourself as a Republican, then corrected yourself.
It just popped out.
A lot of people in the, yeah, a lot of people at in the party at the convention questioned your switch from the Republican Party, Libertarian Party. Was that a switch you made based on your head or your gut or your heart? Explain people sort of your passion for leaving the Republican Party and becoming a Libertarian, for those who suspect it was just a matter of convenience.
No, it didn't seem like a switch to me. I've always self-identified as a libertarian. My Bible in law school was Friedrich Hayek, who's kind of the father of libertarian movement, and I never was comfortable with the socially conservative, movement conservative part of the Republican platform and orthodoxy on social issues. So I always had to wear that on my back, and in a way I feel free at last now that I don't have to support that part of Republican Party dogma.
So one area where you are libertarian also on economic policy, I just want you to explain, a Republican president signed the Americans with Disabilities Act into law. You're a big 10th Amendment guy. Why should Washington, why should the national government tell the state of Massachusetts and private businesses there how they have to spend money to configure their businesses so that people with disabilities can be customers?
Yeah, I suspect that the Libertarian Party platform would not espouse that. I think that was the older Bush, and Justin Dart and others were great friends of his, so I knew it was very important to him. So I more than sat still for both that and the Family Leave Act, which you could also say is an intrusive federal step. But I don't know. The hearts and flowers took over for me on that. Family makes my heart go pit-a-pat. So I think those were both George H.W. Bush, and I did support both of them.
So if I said
you do to this day?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, to roll back the Americans with Disabilities Act and say we're going to take out all these ramps, that would be that'd be a bit much.
So if I were to describe you as Cecile Richards on social matters and Steve Forbes on economic matters, you wouldn't reject that characterization?
She's Planned Parenthood?
She's the head of Planned Parenthood, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I was always a Jack Kemp guy, and I think Steve Forbes probably is a Jack Kemp guy. I was a supply sider. You know, we went and successfully tried to get Christie Whitman elected governor in New Jersey. This was Forbes and myself and Larry Kudlow, believe it or not.
Right, so on the social side, abortion on demand, A-OK.
Yeah, I'm
partial birth abortion, A-OK.
Well, not A-OK, but not sure I want the government making any of those decisions.
That's what I mean. You don't believe in legislating on that. You think there should be no restrictions placed on those kind of activities.
A bunch of men in Washington making decisions about some woman and what some woman in Peoria is going to do about the most intimate of her decisions? No, that just doesn't start for me.
Governor Johnson is maybe most famous, and he's about to get more famous as you guys begin campaigning. He's most famous for his positions about legalizing drugs. How far would you go in terms of legalizing drugs? Just marijuana, hard drugs, everything?
Well, I've as a result of getting together with Gary on this, I've endorsed the marijuana legalization ballot measure in Massachusetts for this year, and I found that kind of a close one. When I was a prosecutor, we used to say that marijuana was a gateway drug. I don't know. I mean, I just see alcohol doing so much more damage than marijuana that I can see a logical argument for it. The other stuff is conjectural at this point.
But you don't want to go as far as a hardcore libertarian who would say, full free market. We should legalize all drugs, all the way up to including cocaine, heroin, LSD, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's see if, I think these are states issues, perhaps not federal issues, but let's see what happens with the few states that have done marijuana, and that'll be an indicator. Okay. The jury seems to be mixed on Colorado right now.
Governor, on domestic policy, what's been President Obama's greatest achievement?
I don't know. I endorsed him in 2008, and I thought he had a disappointing first term. I think he started to pick it up a little bit the last 18 months or so. Of course, I very much agree with him on Cuba and on the executive orders that he did on immigration. So it's easy to think a president is doing a better job when he starts doing things that you very much agree with.
So to get elected president, you and your running mate, Governor Johnson, would have to win some big states. What are some big states you all are aiming to win?
You know, I think at this point we just want to have the contrast made between us and the two major parties. You know, we don't agree with either major party. We are socially compassionate, inclusive. We are fiscally conservative. We were rated the two most fiscally conservative governors in the United States in the early mid-90s. So we really, you know, cut the budget. We know how to do that. We think that the Democrats, to judge by the primary this year, would probably raise taxes and spend a lot of money, and we think that hollows out the economy beyond a certain point.
Governor, as a wider audience gets to know you than back when you were governor of Massachusetts, although you've been a player in the national stage, tell people about your family.
Well, I've been married twice. I have 5 kids with my first wife, Susan Roosevelt, and 3 stepchildren with my second wife, Leslie Marshall. Susan was the great-granddaughter of Teddy Roosevelt, so I grew up in a Teddy Roosevelt household. And my second wife is a writer, and so I'm really the father of 8, and it keeps you young.
That's an impressive achievement on its own. I want to ask you about economics, just because I mean, you talked about you and Governor Johnson being conservative on economics. You want to not spend a lot of government money. You don't want a lot of tax either. So when you look at Hillary Clinton's platform and what she advocates, you look at Donald Trump's. Which of those concerns you more? I mean, there are a lot of Republicans who find Trump's economics as problematic as the Democratic platform.
I don't have a sense of the spending levels in Mr. Trump's proposals. I think they're just all over the place, and they have, let me put it charitably, evolved as the campaign season has gone on. I think, and I thought when Steve Forbes ran for president, I got into the flat tax pretty deeply, and I think you could run a generous federal government relatively on a 19% flat tax, and if you really wanted to cinch your belt, you could run it on a 17% flat tax, and of course both those figures are way below what we've got now. Gary Johnson is more attracted to the idea of a consumption tax, which to me, I mean, we'll talk it through. To me, that seems a little regressive, but big tax reform, yes.
One of the places where Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are kind of in agreement now is they both have become, neither one of them is exactly a full-throated free trader at this point.
Well, that's awful. That's awful.
How do you feel about that issue?
No, I think it's inexcusable that they don't support the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Again, I'm with the administration here, and I'm certain about that. And you know, since the time of Reagan and Clinton and NAFTA, I can remember being in the Bill Clinton White House with Newt Gingrich and myself and Bill Clinton counting votes with 2 days to go on the North American Free Trade Agreement. I think it's doubtful that Mrs. Clinton would sign either the North American Free Trade Agreement or the Welfare Reform Act of 1996 if it came to her desk now. That's the one that put in the work requirement for welfare. And you know, I thought Clinton did a good job moving to the center.
Let me ask you one last question real quick. What's the accomplishment as governor of Massachusetts that you're proudest of?
Well, we put in the work requirement for welfare, and the welfare rolls expense dropped about 75% the next year. To me, that indicated that that was a good idea. The other one was we put in standards for high-stakes testing in 4th, 8th, and 10th grade, and ever since then, Massachusetts, in public schools, ever since then, Massachusetts is ranked #1 in both reading and mathematics. That's obviously good for children.
I also don't think I've ever seen a governor more energetically preside over St. Patrick's Day than you. So that's
well, that went with the territory.
Yeah, exactly right.